Ms. McKay?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all know me. I'm from Patterson Housing. And I just like to say on Friday we had the ribbon cutting in the Bronx at 2645. And I just have to keep on thanking the administrator, and I have to give Latoya credit, and everybody worked with her to get these ramps because we waited a long time. And we had a beautiful affair. And I'm sorry I didn't get his name out the book this morning. It was a tall man, came from down here, one of the administrators. And how I met him, I was talking to him about Germany, because I cook German. And he got to talking to me, and he said he was from NYCHA. And I want to thank him for coming. I hope that someone will hear him. I'll look in the book and get his name, because I had to rush out this morning. But I'm having a meeting tomorrow. The manager is back now. She lost her mother, and so she's back. I'm having a meeting with the tenants tomorrow, working on the garbage. Everyone said it's a big city. I know it's a big city, but we live a beautiful building. NYCHA give us a beautiful place to live. Look, I would move. I love my apartment. Just the tenants. You have to educate these tenants. You have to send letters, and I will be here every month until letters go to every tenant. Don't put them in the hallway. They need to go under the door, asking them to put the garbage where it's supposed to be. That's the only thing. We got rid of the rats. If we get them back, it's going to be a big problem. But the party, I just came to say the party was beautiful. And I just brought this to let you know some of us know how to do something in the Bronx. And I made this. And that was on the table. And I had food. And the news media couldn't get that. They had emergencies, but they said if I send pictures, they would run them on TV. They would put them on TV for me. But I'm asking, I'm begging, please have these letters, send these letters to the Bronx. A whole box. The guy cleans the building, and they do a beautiful job. But if we have to work together, it is only because, I have an apartment, I go in there. Outside is part of your apartment. What you walk in outside, you take it in your house. So this is why I'm working so hard. And you know what? I'll be 89 on Friday. So hard at my age to try to keep a decent place. Because let me just for a few minutes. I lived in the South in a house where I had cut wood and make a fire. I don't have to do that now. The people don't have to do that now. So it's up to us to come together, up to the administrator down here. See, uptown, they don't hardly pay them any attention. But if they see your face in the Bronx once in a while, maybe things will change. Would you please? Thank you, and may God bless you, and Donkey Shane.
Donkey Shane, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
And I'm waiting on the letters. And then the administrative secretary called, and they got the invitation mixed up.
Oh.
Now, I gave him invitation. I wanted him to come. And when I leave the invitation, please try to get it to the head person, okay?
No
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. McKay. Being that there are no additional members of the public wishing to provide public comment, we may proceed with our calendar. We will start with a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting held on Wednesday, June 27th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair would like to make some comments.
So we have a very crowded and full agenda today. I will speak briefly. I want to state for the record for the board that several positions on an executive and senior level have been filled within the authority. Position of Chief Financial Officer, Executive Vice President for Finance has been filled by PV Anantharam, somebody with who I have worked with personally, but who has an extensive record of involvement in municipal government, focused on finance. Most recently has been the Chief Financial Officer of similarly large and complex organization, the Health and Hospitals Corporation, but he also has experience directly at the Office of Management and Budget. Our new General Counsel is not new to the organization, but has similarly a broad background in a range of organizations in the legal field, and had been leading the legal division here for some time on an acting basis. Kelly McNeil, we're all familiar with her. The Chief Compliance Officer is also being filled with someone the board is familiar with. Equally extensive range of experience that speaks volumes about the ability to take on the important role of Chief Compliance Officer here at NYCHA, going way back and including a stint at the Bronx District Attorney's Office, which I hope will only bring investigative skills and nothing else. I should also, I'll defer to Vito to a couple of positions that have been filled in his domain. I do want to note that two individuals who have been holding the fort should be recognized by the board. Tricia Roberts has been acting as a CFO for a substantial amount of time and has done a terrific job in leading the finance department while we searched for a chief financial officer, and of course the role of chief compliance officer has been filled by Edna Wells Handy, who has done a remarkable job in putting together the building blocks for the compliance effort here at NYCHA. Fortunately for us, she will be staying on in a transitional role for the next few months to create a smooth path of a transition for Vilma, and will serve as a senior advisor to me during that period, so that the effort to create an effective compliance department goes on. That's my report.
So on the operations side, I guess the two recent appointments that you may have heard about are two vice presidents in operations. Carolyn Jasper, who has served in operations in a number of positions and was elevated to vice president. And Nick Rotundi. I'm not sure if Nick is here. Carolyn, you want to stand up? That's Carolyn Jasper. And Nick Rotundi, who also joined us as a vice president in operations. Nick recently retired from the NYPD as a deputy inspector, where he served for I believe, close to 30 years. I don't think Nick is here with us. He's in training. Good place for him to be. And so we do have some announcements that will be happening in a short time. But the last thing I just want to mention is we talk about the future. We talk about the future of NYCHA. So I do want to recognize that we have some future NYCHA employees sitting with us here, hopefully today, members of our youth program. Please stand up. Come on.
Yeah. Very good.
You are serving in the law department. We also have college interns and law student interns. Would you also please rise?
All right, excellent.
The future looks brighter.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I think Sadia Sherman, I don't know if Sadia's here. Carrie, between the two offices, they did a phenomenal job this year of onboarding our summer youth. I believe we had close to 900 summer youth that came to us this summer. I'm not really sure about historically, but traditionally, summer youth really served out in the developments to assist with the caretakers and with operations. There was an extra effort this year for us to really bring summer youth into some of our central office functions. So we have summer youth that work at the law department. They work with IT, with HR, with capital. So we're really excited about that. We're excited about expanding and broadening their horizons. And again, I hope to see them. Hopefully, there's a future general manager sitting out there. So again, thank you all. I really appreciate you all being here today. Thank you.
We may proceed now with our regular calendar. We'll start with item number 1.
Good morning, Deborah Goddard for Capital. Start with item 1, which is the recommendation to award a requirement contract for the replacement of underground steam distribution systems at various developments in the Bronx and Queens. This is a requirement contract. We are awarding it to TR Pipe, Inc. The overall amount is almost $15 million. TR Pipe has done work with us in the past in a satisfactory manner. Their VNC is pending, and therefore this award won't be final until that has cleared. They are recommending 2 Section 3 hires, and I want to note that this is done on a task order basis. So as they go out, they're thinking 2, at this point, they're thinking 2 per task order. So it's not a $15 million contract that gets work all at once. Any questions? Item number 2 is the recommendation to award a roofing and railing replacement rooftop contract at Webster Houses to RSN Construction in the amount of almost $6 million. This is part of the Mayor's Roofing Initiative. RSN has been in operation since 2004, done 2 projects with us satisfactorily. Their VNC also has been requested and is pending, and so this award will not be finalized until that is cleared. They are recommending 3 Section 3 hires. The first low bidder was rejected for failure to meet the bid requirements. If there are no questions, I'll move to item 3. Recommendation to award a contract for roofing replacement at Grant Houses to Neelam Construction Corporation in the amount of almost $14.5 million. Again, part of the Mayor's action plan on roofing. Neelam is a minority-owned business. They've done a lot of work with us in a satisfactory manner. The 2 lowest bidders were rejected, again, for failure to meet bid requirements. I would say for item 2 and item 3, I note that the next lowest bidder still came in lower than our estimate. The VNC on this has been approved. They are suggesting 3 Section 3 hires. Item 4 is an indefinite quantity contract for construction management services. The combined contract value is $200 million. We did a lot of outreach on this one. We wanted to really bring new people in, and we succeeded at that, although we did have a number that were non-responsive. This will provide comprehensive construction management services for us. As you know, our portfolio is growing, and we are very reliant on this. We've also added an element to this contract that allows us to buy services on a very discrete basis. If we need help with scheduling or we need help training our folks on scheduling, we can also buy that service as we try and up the expertise of our own in-house staff. We divided the potential awards into two categories, A and B, so that we could give some to large entities that could handle larger contracts and not shut out smaller contractors, and that worked quite well. So we are awarding we recommend awarding 9 contracts for the large complex assignments, which are between $10 and $100 million in construction value, and 4 for the small project, which is up to $10 million in construction value. The V&C was requested and are pending on all 13. Again, the Section 3 will be based on task order. Yes, Victor.
The only question I have is with regards to that. Once the project starts and we start moving along and they start hiring the Section 3, will there be any monitoring as it moves forward as to how many and you know, as each progress, as each program or project progresses?
Yes.
Will we get to know how many more have gone on this particular contract?
Yes, we can provide that. So when they're issued a task order, it's like starting, right? What are you going to do for this value of this task order, and what are your new hires? Yes.
I have a question as well.
Yes.
So I know the memo refers to the pricing, that the typical pricing is a percentage of the construction cost, but you mentioned that there might be other tasks, right?
Yes.
That, such as training, which then don't relate to a construction amount.
Right.
So
Right.
in those cases, how is the pricing determined? Is it by is it an hourly basis
Hourly.
or?
Hourly, yes.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll see how it works, but it was one way to increase the competency of our own staff.
And what training is planned? Is there a specific?
No, I know one weakness we have in-house is scheduling. So that was one item I paid attention to. It might be that we have a particular problematic contractor and we need someone guiding our staff to make sure we're documenting it correctly, so that we have the right outcome. So in a case where we didn't otherwise have a construction manager on board.
Mhm.
So again, we did training this past year for all of our project management staff, a 3-day training on project management, but we still need to grow our folks. We've also just recently promoted, I think, about 10 to 12 people up into assistant project management roles, and I imagine we'll again continue to need to provide some training to those folks to bring them along. Item number 5 is an award for an energy services agreement to Amoresco in the amount of over $100 million. So this is the same project for which you approved the loan, the bank loan, last month. This is the award of the contract to Amoresco, which was approved by HUD just last month. The scope here is efficient lighting and apartments, and it'll be good news to someone sitting in this audience. The Patterson heating plant is also a part of this EPC. The term is 20 years. They're proposing 30 Section 3 hires. Overall, over the 20-year term, this is expected to save us $155 million. And to put it in terms of sustainability language, for every year, it's taking off over 5,000 cars from the street, just to give a sense of the carbon impact for what we're doing. Yes.
I had a question about, so the memo referred to that there was an initial assessment of 80 developments, and then there were 2, they were grouped into 2, and then this is now the result of,
Right.
And it's focused on, let's see, how many projects?
15.
15, right.
Mhm.
So are we to understand that the assessment of all 80 is complete?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then we broke it up. It's some we can't make the math work in terms of the capital investment and the savings to pay it off, because we need that to pay it off.
Right.
If there are no more questions. Item number 6 is the recommendation to reject all bids in connection with some of the recovery work at Red Hook East and West. This related to plants, pods, and primary distribution, the electrical and heating work there. The low bid came in at 35% higher than our estimate. We had divided the work at Red Hook into 3 phases, hoping to keep the work at a scale that could attract a number of contractors. That worked in the first phase with the roofs. We got good bids. They came in an estimate. This time around, splitting the remaining work into 2 may not have been the right thing to do, although I supported it. I thought it was the way to go. But we think perhaps that there was just too much interconnection between the second phase work and the third phase work, and people were unsure of how that was going to meld. There's also some value engineering that we learned we could do. So we are wrapping up the value engineering to keep the project within budget, and we will be going out to bid. We are likely to go out to bid, giving folks the option to bid on phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3, or both together, as a way to maintain that flexibility between scale and price and see what we get.
When do you expect it?
We will be going out to bid later this fall. They are revising the contracts. We're wrapping up the value engineering now, and they are doing the revisions to the design docs. Item number 7 is the recommendation to reject all bids related to the Taft Rehab's bathroom renovations. The lowest bidder came in close to our estimate, but was unable to provide the bonds that were required. The next 2 lowest bidders were significantly overpriced, over our bid, over 70% over. In-unit work is very difficult, and we often see ourselves suffering from an uptick in the price due to prospective claims that they expect to get from residents claiming damage or lost goods. So we're going to take another look at how to bid this, how to apportion the risk between the authority and the vendor, and we'll be putting this out to bid again.
What's the expected timing?
Probably, I'd say, if this is second quarter, third quarter. Is the second increase to the engineering and consulting services contract with Facilities Strategies Group. The recommendation is for a $1.8 million increase. Some of you will remember we were here last year with a larger, the First Amendment, we recommended a larger increase than was approved. We agreed to scale it back, see how the use of the money went. As predicted, we're now running out. We're coming back. FSG is extremely critical to us. They have a very unique skill set and expertise in HUD's EPC rules, policies, and utility calculations. Amongst our engineering consultants, they're really the only ones that have this expertise. HUD steps outside the norm of most energy performance contracts and their requirements. Altogether, their fees represent less than 1% of the HUD-approved EPC costs, and I think the value of their work has been demonstrated, so we are recommending this second increase. Item number 9 is a third increase in the AE for the AE services for Sandy work at various developments in Brooklyn. The AE firm is Curtis and Ginsburg. This change order value is about a little over $116,000. When Office of Recovery CPD held its final community meeting at the site, there were some requests from residents and managements that we had not had before, but they were sensible. They wanted the removal of a barbecue pit for safety reasons. They thought they could use more play space. So we've decided to go with the recommendations, change the design documents, and we are still within anticipated budget on this project. Yes, Mr. Gonzalez.
Talking about 9, right?
Yes.
I noticed that there's no section 3.
Right. This is the same architectural firm. They aren't increasing their work. They're just continuing the same work. Yeah,
Okay.
that's sometimes in change orders, you will find it's net new work and net new hires, but often it just means the same crew is continuing the work. Item number 10, second increase for the construction management services for the Sandy Recovery Program at Carlton Manor, Hamel, and Redfern houses in the value of over $800,000. When we got out there, this is not unusual. We found out that more work had to be done, and therefore the term of the construction management contract has to be extended. This is with D&B, and I want to note that some of you may be aware there have been concerns with D&B. We are not doing new contracts with D&B at this point, but this is an existing contract, and we're paying them to continue the work and finish out the work at these 3 sites.
When you say you get to the site and you discover that additional work needs to be done,
Yeah.
explain that, just in like kind of a sense of context of what that means.
Yeah. So we had some delays at this site, which extended time. And then let me just check my notes here. I'm going to have to get back to you on the details because I noticed that we've had construction delays, which has increased the duration of their contract. And I am not clear on this one whether we did find field conditions that were a problem. I think I may have messed myself up with another vote, but I can get the answer.
Thank you.
Items 11 and 12 relate to the 4th and 5th increase ratification for amendments for AE services for the Sandy Recovery Program at Red Hook East and West with the firm of Cohn, Peterson, Fox and Associates. The value of the 4th change order was about a little over $20,000 and related to a request to revise the roofing documents. The contractor thought there was a way to save money, and indeed we did. The overall construction cost came down at $760,000 on that piece of the work. The 5th change order is in the amount of over $325,000, and that is for the work we've done, asked them to split the bid packages, and now we are putting the bid packages back together. This relates to the prior vote I just mentioned in terms of rejecting. And I was fully informed and was in the discussions about splitting the bid package. I thought it made sense. And so I do not see any error on the part of the design firm for working with us to that end. Yes.
A couple things. One is, so the work has already been completed, right?
The work on the first package, the roofing, yes, to which the 4th change order.
For change order,
4.
I guess it's 12. The 327, right? That involves
yes, the first
splitting the bid
separation.
packages.
The first separation.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess one question about timing and then also it struck me as a lot for if the work is simply splitting bid packages. So what it suggests to me is that the design documents were done and it was just a matter of splitting the packages. So 327 sounded like a lot to me for simply splitting packages. But then a larger issue, which is, if I remember correctly, this firm is the same firm that had made an error on documents related to the roof.
Yes.
And so I think there's a question about how that was resolved. And, when an architect makes an error, they're responsible generally for that error. And in fact, they have insurance to cover those types of errors, et cetera. So where does that end into the mix? So I know there's multiple questions. So the error and where that fits into all this.
Okay. So the error is separate, and I am with you. I am very bullish on holding our architects accountable. And so we're doing that to see if we have a right to go for errors and omissions. What we also have to prove is it cost us something, but I'm very bullish on that. I think that we need to hold our outside firms accountable to put the best they've got towards our work. So we are working with law on that now. But that's a separate issue.
Right, okay.
Here, I understand. I can relate to, you feel like you just pull the documents apart and you bid it, but it really means you have to do a lot of work to make sure as you're pulling them apart, you're keeping each package coherent. And there's a lot of work in the details and the specifications to make sure you've pulled it back in a coherent fashion.
So have our staff then, so does KPF keep detailed logs of the hours they're working on?
Yes.
And your staff is reviewed and you feel comfortable that these were hours actually?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And then they're also doing the value engineering to make sure this works for us. But particularly, always we get hourly reports. But as you know, this is FEMA funded, and so this is scrutinized line by line every month.
Right. Okay.
Items 13 through 16 are the ratification of 4 change orders in connection with the Cassidy Lafayette houses, the exterior brickwork restoration and roofing replacement. The contractor is Adams European Contracting. The change orders total of almost $1 million. This is, I got ahead of myself last time. This is the nature of the work, local law 11 and brickwork. When you get out there, you can often find a lot more that's happened, particularly if it's gone through another winter season of freeze thaw. And so this is what has happened in this case. We have 4 aspects. We have 4 change orders. Additional cap flashing at the roof fans, additional concrete repairs in our balconies, and in 2 cases, complete replacement of the balconies, as well as then the additional rental of the sidewalk sheds while this work was being done.
My only question was that, so in both these cases, in all these cases, it's the 11th change order, the 12th change order, the 14th change order. So it's a lot of change orders, and I mean more than is typical. And I know some contractors, that's sort of their model, is they get in with a nice low bid, but then they increase change order. I guess, so how comfortable are we that these are accurate and reasonable?
The change orders that come to you come to me, and I look at them really carefully and ask whether, for instance, should that have been code and caught by our own design team? Why wasn't this caught by the inspectors? So I do feel very comfortable that these have been scrutinized and these were appropriate. Again, particularly with brickwork, it's really difficult to get up there and at it. And often we're a cycle behind in our inspections as well. So we're catching up. It's gone through another winter. If there are no questions, that is it for capital. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Audi. I'm Acting Director for Management Services. I'm presenting item number 17, which is seeking to enter into an agreement with DynaTouch Corporation for self-service kiosks and associated professional services for 5 years, which include 2 one-year renewal options. On November 28, 2017, the Procurement Department performed a solicitation utilizing the GSA eBuy website that has multiple vendors for the kiosks and professional services. The evaluation committee reviewed the proposal submitted and determined that the proposal by DynaTouch was acceptable based on the evaluation criteria, which included time frame to deliver after purchase order is submitted, qualifications, cost of individual units, and volume discount for bulk orders. DynaTouch met all of the requirements and was selected as the qualified vendor who can provide these services. The authority anticipates ordering at least 25 self-service kiosks upon execution of the agreement and estimates approximately 25 self-service kiosks may be ordered per year during each year of the 5-year term of the agreement. However, these quantities represent estimates only. The Management Services Department seeks to enter into an agreement with DynaTouch to provide self-service kiosks on an as-needed basis, delivery, installation, and configuration of the self-service kiosks, maintenance and support services to be provided as needed. The agreement has a not-to-exceed amount of $3.8 million. As part of this agreement, authority departments, primarily property management and the customer contact center, will have the ability to purchase additional self-service kiosks on an as-needed basis. This vendor has previously performed $1.7 million in work over the past 2 years. Any questions?
I do. So mainly about the price differential. In particular, there's a paragraph in the memo that explains it that I'd love to you elaborate on. So
sure.
There's 185% variance between their proposal of 3.8 and estimate of approximately 2 million. And this variance is attributed to the projection of 25 self-service kiosks purchased in bulk per year for 5 years versus 30 self-service kiosks purchased individually per year for 5 years. And that will allow the authority to increase its self-service kiosks based on its future needs. So I'm just not, I don't fully understand that paragraph.
Sure.
So
sure. So the comparison is purchasing in bulk, which the volume discount comes into play. So if we buy 25 at a time, the price per unit is lower than if we purchased one at a time. And we estimated the ability to buy one at a time, 30 per year versus purchasing 25 at one time.
But how many do we intend to purchase?
We have no guarantees. So we are providing a vehicle for property management to purchase additional kiosks as needed. If we know ahead of time that we're going to need 10 across however many locations, we could bulk those orders together. So we would ideally want to order more at one time than individually.
But at this moment in time, we don't have any intention to order any particular number?
At this moment in time, we have 14 identified that are needed at the customer contact walk-in centers.
Okay.
And there's a potential for 11 at different properties across the 5 boroughs. So we could potentially purchase 25 at one time with what we know today.
And in which case we get the lower
Yes.
number and we come under budget.
Yes.
As closer to our estimate.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all?
Good morning. I'm Cal Bruno, Director with Operations. I'm presenting item 18. Item 18, request authorization to approve a change order for an asphalt paving repair contract that covers the Queen Staten Island developments. The change order is in an amount of $550,000. This change order is required to increase the not to exceed amount in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term and the 1-year renewal option. This contract is used to prepare for FARS inspections, as well as repairing deteriorated asphalt in play areas, parking lots, and walkways. Any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lakeisha Miller, Executive Vice President for Leased Housing. I'm presenting item number 19 today, authorization to amend the Section 8 admin plan. Authorization is requested to amend the authority Section 8 admin plan, most recently amended by Board Resolution 17-9, 27-31. In accordance with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development regulations at 24 CFR 982.54D1, governing the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, to revise policies to be consistent with new HUD guidelines on fair housing, program admissions and eligibility, payment standards, housing quality standards, and other general program policies, and address minor edits to provide better clarification on existing policies. Any questions?
Yes. So does this affect the plan that is going to be submitted or already been submitted?
This is requesting approval for the policies going in the next year.
Into next year?
Yeah.
So we've already submitted stays?
We submit to the board for approval,
Okay.
and then we
Okay.
implement.
Okay.
So there's a lot of detail in here,
Yes.
a lot of nuance, and a lot of sort of inside baseball. Is there anything that you would highlight as particularly significant and important?
Yes, I think the most significant change that we're making this year is called the non-life-threatening provision under HOTMA, which allows us to complete rental of new units if there's only life-threatening conditions witnessed. So something like a doorknob missing from a bedroom would normally fail an inspection and you can't do a rental. We would be able to do the rental with the tenant's consent and the landlord's consent. So that's the most
Understanding
significant.
that it would get fixed, but
Yes, within the next 30 days.
okay,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So HOTMA is the Housing Opportunities Through Modernization Act, which was done in the last year through HUD, which provided a lot of regulatory relief to the program. Yeah. Thank you.
So it'll essentially allow us to rent units more quickly, get families in those.
Yes, and especially with the upcoming RAD work, since we're doing RAD with tenant protection vouchers, the inspections won't fail up front. It'll allow us to complete the transaction and get the subsidy flowing. Yeah.
Thank you.
No. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Bob Morano, NYCHA's Chief Information Officer. Item 20 is requesting authorization to enter into an agreement with Dimension Data North America, Inc. for the implementation and maintenance of a VoIP phone system in all of our management offices. The new phone system will replace our aging copper-based analog system with modern network-attached VoIP phones. The old system requires a receptionist to answer all calls and to transfer to appropriate parties. Staff do not have voicemail or direct lines. The new system will allow staff to have voicemail and direct lines. Also, they will have the ability to hold, transfer, or conference in other staff. Best of all, we are migrating our offices away from Verizon's deteriorating copper infrastructure and replacing it with network-attached phones. This will minimize phone downtime and improve reliability. There is also a cost offset, whereas we will be removing 1,600 Verizon lines, costing us approximately $22 a month, or around $400,000 a year. Therefore, we're requesting to enter into this 3-year agreement with Dimension Data for $5 million. Thank you.
Did they maintain ownership of the equipment? They're just leasing it?
No, we're buying the equipment. Yeah, that's the initial cost. That's why it's a little higher, but it's going to offset each other after the first 3 years.
The agreement is for continued maintenance or
Yes.
help with it. Okay. And does this complete? So with this, what percentage of the authority is now would be on a modern system? Is this
Everybody?
100%?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 4,000 phones.
Right.
Yep. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Takesha White, EVP for Real Estate. I'll be presenting item number 21, where authorization is being requested to submit a Section 18 disposition application to HUD. And subject to HUD's approval, we would like to enter into a 99-year ground lease with Breaking Ground, the nonprofit developer. In June 2016, NYCHA and HPD released a joint RFP to develop 2 sites in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx, including the subject. All proposals were required to be for very low and low-income senior households with on-site support services. And in June 2017, the developer was chosen based upon competitive evaluation, which examined financial feasibility, development experience, development team capacity, quality of building design, and program. The project consists of 2 vacant lots, one owned by NYCHA, the other by HPD. The lots will be merged to form the subject site, where we're planning to build an 8-story elevated building with 154 affordable apartments for seniors. 46 of the units will be set aside for chronically homeless seniors, and the remaining 108 units will be available to those earning below 50% area median income. NYCHA residents will be given preference for 27 of those units. There are no zoning actions required for this action. However, there will be a mayoral override that's being sought for setback relief, which gives us the ability to have 8 additional units in the building. The total development cost is anticipated to be $79 million, with $1 million coming to NYCHA in the form of a ground lease payment and $1.5 million coming to NYCHA at conversion. Any questions?
So one was the developer. So I think you mentioned in your remarks Breaking Ground.
Breaking Ground,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. And then I thought we voted on this site recently, or is that?
No, that was a different site. It was a Batanza site that was
okay.
associated with RAD. This is a separate
Okay, so this is entirely
vacant lot.
separate. Okay, just clarifying. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No questions? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Anne Marie Flatley, the VP for Performance Management Analytics, and I'll be presenting item number 22. Trying to get the microphone straight with my glasses. So this resolution seeks authorization to submit an amendment to the authority's fiscal year 2018 annual public housing agency plan. The amendment includes the following. Number 1, the disposition via via long-term ground lease and conversion from Section 9 public housing ACC contracts to Section 8 project-based vouchers or PVV HAP contracts of Betances 1 and parts of Betances 5 and 6 in the Bronx, and Bushwick 2 Groups B and D and Hope Gardens in Brooklyn as part of the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. Number 2, the disposition via long-term ground lease and conversion from Section 9 public housing ACC to Section 8 PVV HAP contracts of Betances 4 in the Bronx for the preservation of affordable housing. Number 3, a retention action pursuant to 2 CFR Part 200 for Independence Towers and Williams Plaza in Brooklyn to convert these developments from Section 9 public housing ACC to Section 8 PVV HAP contracts. Number 4, the disposition of parcels of land at Baruch in Manhattan, Bushwick 2 CDA Group B in Brooklyn, and Sotomayor in the Bronx for the development of new 100% affordable housing for seniors. Number 5, the disposition of a parcel of land at Cooper Park in Brooklyn for the development of market rate and affordable housing. Number 6, the disposition of a parcel of land and surplus development rights at Ingersoll in Brooklyn to generate revenue and facilitate the development of new affordable housing units in accordance with the New York City mandatory inclusionary housing policy. Number 7, the disposition of surplus development rights at Fulton, Manhattan to facilitate commercial office development, and the disposition of surplus development rights at College Avenue, East 165th Street in the Bronx, and Howard in Brooklyn for affordable housing development and to generate revenue for the authority. And number 8, the fiscal year 2018 Capital Fund Annual Statement, Performance and Evaluation Report, and the 5-year capital plan. This resolution also seeks authorization to submit the PHA's certification of compliance with the PHA plans and related regulations to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in accordance with Section 511 of the Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act of 1998. The signed certification includes the notation which states the following: NYCHA's leadership, including its newly appointed Chief Compliance Officer, are committed to addressing issues of noncompliance. Currently, NYCHA is not in compliance with a number of federal regulations and is working to assess the extent of noncompliance. On June 11, 2018, NYCHA signed a consent decree with the United States to resolve claims brought by the United States, including on behalf of HUD and EPA. The consent decree was filed in federal court and, if approved by the court, will establish a framework by which NYCHA will continue to evaluate its compliance with federal requirements and address noncompliance. This board resolution also includes a letter from NYCHA's interim chair to Luigi D'Ancona, director of the New York Office of Public Housing for HUD. And the letter is as follows. Dear Mr. D'Ancona, this letter expands upon the notation added to the PHA's certification of compliance with the PHA plans and related regulations submitted by the New York City Housing Authority in connection with a significant amendment to its 2018 annual plan on August 6, 2018. Under new leadership, as contemplated by the proposed consent decree in United States versus the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA will review its operations regularly in order to assess potential compliance gaps. This will include working with business units to identify areas of apparent noncompliance, conducting new reviews based on potential compliance risk, and evaluating and assessing the extent of noncompliance. Based on work conducted thus far, NYCHA believes it may not be in compliance with a number of federal regulations. NYCHA's recently established compliance department will develop an approach to address areas of noncompliance as appropriate. The areas of federal regulation that we are currently examining include, but are not limited to, administrative, overtime requirements, staffing and scope of work of the Department of Equal Opportunity, procurement bid thresholds, emergency management plans and tracking, and required staff trainings. Programmatic, providing oversight of tenant protections, Section 3 requirements. Consent decrees, requirements identified in proposed consent decrees, such as with regard to mold and lead. NYCHA expects additional areas will be added to this list as the reviews continue. NYCHA's leadership and the new compliance department are committed to these efforts, and we report periodically on our progress, and it will be signed by our chair, sincerely, Stanley Bresnoff, Interim Chair and Chief Executive Officer. This signed certification, along with the amendment and board resolution, will be hand-delivered to HUD's field office on August 6, 2018. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I open it up to questions. Great, thanks.
Good morning. I'm Ed McDonald with the Technical Services Department, and I am presenting item number 23, which is seeking authorization to enter into an agreement with Environmental Education Associates to develop and provide mold training classes to Housing Authority staff. This agreement will be for an initial 3-year term for a not-to-exceed amount of $3,187,728, and will have 2 one-year renewal options to be exercised at the authority's sole discretion. The authority issued a request for proposals to develop and provide mold training classes to authority staff. 4 firms submitted proposals, which were reviewed by an RFP committee. The committee reviewed all the proposals and determined that Environmental Associates was the best proposal based on the cost, experience, their staffing plan, and their management approach to the training. Under this agreement, EEA will provide, as required by the authority, 3 mold training classes, inspections, building sciences, and remediation methods. The training provided must cover all relevant federal, state, and city standards and guidelines as identified on identifying and treating mold. These training classes should help the authority staff to comply with the applicable HUD standards concerning mold. The development of these classes will be customized to meet authority-specific rules and use examples that reflect authority procedures. The contractor has completed approximately $129,000 worth of service to the authority to date. They have indicated that there will be 2 Section 3 hires, and their VNC is current. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, we have 23 items presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will also note that board member Vice Chair Cephas stepped out of the room, and I will confirm his votes to be recorded accordingly. Thank you. Do I have?
I move that the members be authorized to meet in executive session today and as necessary to discuss the civil investigative demand.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everyone.